given to me was that humans are studying all of these different modalities where individuals are having contact with intelligence, non-human intelligence, that humans are viewing this as separate and independent, but in fact, they're all interrelated. And that the glue that's holding it all together is some type of advanced physics which is the true nature of our reality, but humans are calling it consciousness. Okay. And then I was given information of what I needed to do. I was told that I needed to inform humanity of the relationship between them, which is this non-human intelligence, the spirit world, which I interpreted as the multidimensional nature of our reality, okay, and consciousness, which is the physical apparatus of what's holding it all in place. Okay, and so I need to inform humanity of the relationship between them, the spirit world, and consciousness. Okay, I got back into my body. All of a sudden I'm driving in the car, and I immediately called this, the only experiencer I had been communicating with at that time, and I told her what had happened, and she was telling me to calm down, to take deep breaths, that sort of thing, and so what had happened was that.
Would you call this a contact download?
Oh yes, definitely, most definitely. Most definitely. And then that evening, let me preface this by saying that 7 months before this event, I think it was in October of 2012, I had sent an email to like 10 very well-known names in this field. People like Mary Rodwell, Whitley Strieber, Linda Moulton Howe, all these people that appear on all these radio stations, radio shows, just requesting someone to talk to. And I sent them an email of my experiences up to that point, October, which did not include the NDE experiences, and then obviously did not include what happened that day and all of the other paranormal experiences that occurred afterwards. So that evening when I got home, I got an email from Mary Rodwell, and she said, "Dear Ray, I just got an email that you had sent me 7 months before, but it just popped up on my computer today." Okay?
What?
You could ask Mary that, Joe. Okay,
I will. I shall.
Ask Mary. Okay, good, because I was interviewed on Coast to Coast, and George Knapp asked her that question because I appeared first for the first segment, and then I left, and then Mary came on, and he says, "Mary, I want to ask you a question. Ray told me this story, blah blah blah. Is that true?" Mary started, busted out laughing. He says, "100% true. That's exactly how it went down." So anyway, she and I then talked for 3 hours, okay? And I told her, when I responded back, I said, "Well, you ain't seen nothing yet. This is what happened today." And during these 5-month period, all these paranormal experiences. And then in December was this NDE, 3 days in a row that this happened. And so we agreed to continue our communications because it was very late at night for me. And so the very next morning at 9:30 in the morning, I get a telephone call. "Hello, is this Ray Hernandez?" "Yes, who's this?" "Oh, Dr. Rudy Shields." And I go, "Who?" "Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that Mary had sent you an email. Mary gave me your email and your telephone number because Mary always sends me information of experiencers that get downloads regarding advanced physics or consciousness." And then I said, "Oh, well, who are you?" I'm a emeritus professor at the Department of Astrophysics at Harvard, blah, blah, blah. I was a dear friend of Dr. John Mack. He then went on to explain his background. And so at that point, I told him a little bit about what had happened to me. I went over, all the details. And he said, "Ray, what happened to you is 100% correct. What you experienced, that all of these, what I call contact modalities, are actually interconnected, and that the quantum hologram theory of consciousness in physics, which is a theory that he and Dr. Edgar Mitchell have been working on for the last 20 years, explains the whole non-local aspect of consciousness, and that all of these modalities of piercing the veil, that they're not separate, but they're all one." And then he went on.
When we say non-local, I'll just mention to the audience as a kind of footnote, that means that consciousness, mind, is not limited by time or space. That allows an individual to contact another mind at a great distance, or to remote view in terms of visual impressions, places that are extremely far away, because consciousness cannot be limited by time or space. Go ahead.
Correct, exactly. People can go to our website at experiencer.org, and we have 5 different menu sections. 2 of these menu sections have articles by the many professors and retired academics, and articles by the late Dr. Edgar Mitchell and Dr. Rudy Shields and many other physicists associated with FREE. One of the sections is articles on the contact modalities, how they indeed are interrelated. And then another menu section has over 20 articles on the physics of consciousness. And about 5 of these articles were written by the late Dr. Edgar Mitchell, which explains one exceptional article is titled Nature's Mind, the Quantum Hologram, which explains the whole non-local aspect of consciousness and telepathic communication, which is what really is going on with these entities. So it's experiencer.org. So what had happened was that then Rudy began to explain the elementary physics of the quantum hologram and consciousness. He then gave me a telephone number. He said, write down this telephone number. He said, this is the telephone number of my mentor. And so I said, in my head, I was saying, who the hell is this guy's mentor? This guy's a Harvard professor of astrophysics. So I asked him, who's your mentor? And he said, Dr. Edgar Mitchell. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to tell Edgar immediately after our conversation that he needs to talk to you. I'm going to send him an email and try to talk to him, and I encourage you to call him. And
for the people who may not know, Edgar Mitchell was one of the 12 men who walked on the moon, and he's not only an astrophysicist, but also a moonwalking astronaut, and he's been very active in attempts at promoting disclosure. If people tuned into our show last week, we talked about some of the work that Edgar Mitchell did before he died in trying to meet with the president to talk about not only UFOs, but also free energy and the need to have peaceful relations with the intelligence behind the UFO phenomena.
Correct. Rudy says that Edgar deserves the Nobel Prize because he was the modern Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci. Edgar is actually the father of the modern UFO disclosure movement. It was Edgar that brought all those people to Stephen Greer's workshops, not Greer, okay? Edgar had the clout to go to all these generals, all these bigwigs. He had all the connections. So it was Edgar. Edgar was also the only astronaut besides Gordon Cooper, when he talked about his experiences, that was out there over the last 30 years talking about the UFO and the ET contact phenomenon. Edgar also worked with hundreds of experiencers, except that side rarely got presented by Edgar. Also, Edgar was one of the world's leading experts on ESP, telepathy, remote viewing, and energy healing. He formed the Institute of Noetic Sciences in 1972 to undertake scientific studies of ESP and energy healing. So
the noetic sciences refers to the study of consciousness in its
the study of consciousness, correct, but from a scientific perspective. So Edgar was the founder for that. And so what happened was that 4 hours after Rudy told me about Edgar, I gave him a call, and Edgar told me that Rudy had called him up. He then told me that he and Rudy had discussed my experiences, and that he wanted to talk to me. And he said, what are you doing tomorrow? And I said, nothing. And so I said, can you come by my house at 10 o'clock? And so the very next day, which is the 3rd day after my experience, I was at Edgar's home. And I spent the entire day at his home.
He also lived in Florida, correct? He was.
Yes.
It wasn't that far for you.
He lived 45 minutes away in Lake Worth, Florida. Mm-hmm. So what happened was I was there, the entire day, and he just went on and on and on with different stories of how all the astronauts had paranormal experiences. Many of them had contact experiences. The cosmonauts had paranormal experiences. What happened in Roswell. lots of details of his life.